I was going to say, there's four things you don't ask about: a woman's age, a man's salary, how much money a Sims player spends on Sims, and what any German company was doing between 1930 and 1940.
After a bounty's been put out on you, which is an annoyance. Whereas, like, there's the Odin trope, there's the only reason I have Paramount Plus is so I can watch RuPaul's Drag Race and Criminal Minds Evolution. That's it. Yes, I know.
That's a very two ends of the spectrum thing.
Well,
our nerd cards, because we're going to say something someone's not going to like and go, nerd card. I mean, it is what it is. It is the risk of being a nerd. You say one thing and everyone turns against you. Look at Star Wars nerds.
Hey now.
They're turning against each other. They're eating each other alive right now. Let's just be honest.
Yes. Well, okay, let's be honest here. They're always eating each other alive.
They have been. But welcome. I am one of the hosts, Kitsuragi, Chase, and then of course I'm joined here this week by Kayla, aka Stormwind, and of course, well, we don't have Provo, my Packer bro, here, so sorry. He's taking the night off. Obviously, we'll get more people in when we can get them in, but it is what it is. So it's just the two of us. It's fine. We'll make it work. As always, thanks everyone for coming by on this one. So yeah, let's go ahead and get this started, because I decided, like, the topics this week we'll focus on the two things we were talking about when I started up the unnerded topic thread. Wow, I cannot speak. I've barely even cracked into this beer.
Red leather, yellow leather.
I don't do wordplay.
Oh, come on. You did theater. You know you have to do those warm-ups.
Yeah, I hated it. I loved it, but I hated it. No, so the topics tonight, and they're both kind of, they fall into each other really hard unfortunately, because of how they work, is let me get the actual topic. Players versus units sold. And of course, is Game Pass and others like that, EA Plus, Ubisoft Plus, PlayStation Plus's like high-end one, Nintendo. I don't count those ones, weirdly enough, but I'll explain why later. But any of those subscription-based services, are they good? And I can already tell you right now, there's benefits and negatives to everything. There always is. There always will be. It's just how things work. You can't be 100% great. So
yeah.
Good. But yeah, I think what we can do is we'll start off with the Game Pass one first. Like, is Xbox Game Pass good? Is Ubisoft Game Plus, EA Plus good? Like, are they good? Do they help out the company? Do they hinder the company? What's good about them? What's bad about them overall? And I know everyone's going to hear me speak like 9 million times, but go ahead and let's just have you start this one off, Kayla, with that.
Oh, man. Well, speaking as someone who has PlayStation Plus and EA Plus, I find them helpful sometimes. It means, especially on PlayStation Plus, I get to try games that, I may not have thought to buy first. For example, things like the Turing Test. I figured this out yesterday, but apparently I did like 3 playthroughs of Horizon Zero Dawn while it was on PlayStation Plus. I was very shocked I didn't own it. It also, plus having those memberships also allow you to do things like do trials of things. Lego Horizon Adventures was one, Baldur's Gate 3. those were your trials were through your PlayStation Plus membership, so you actually got to try them out before you decided whether or not you could buy them, which was really nice. And I also have EA Plus because I'm a Sims junkie sometimes. We're not going to talk about how much money I've spent on The Sims 4,
They wouldn't.
but it gives me a small amount of discount for one single annual price.
Yeah.
So especially when it comes to The Sims, I kind of get to I basically that money that goes towards the subscription is paid back to me in those discounts, especially with how often The Sims releases packs.
I was going to say, there's four things you don't ask about: a woman's age, a man's salary, how much money a Sims player spends on Sims, and what any German company was doing between 1930 and 1940.
God. But yeah, no, like having the EA Plus account has definitely helped. I can't say it helped manage costs because it's The Sims, but it's been a nice. I mean, this is where it helps EA. It's an incentive. That small, what is it, like 5 to 10% discount, which for most things is about $5 for The Sims, but for bigger things, it's a bit of more of a chunk. But it encourages people to continue to buy, you know, Sims expansions, Sims stuffs packs, etc. Especially if they go, I don't know if I can afford that, and then they see the discount and they go, oh.
Oh, weird!
It also
I can afford that and lunch this week.
well, right, and then on top of that, like if I remember right, EA incentivizes players with like early access, don't they? With that, if I remember right,
They
gotta
do.
go in order. Yeah. So like, it also encourages players to buy early access versions of the games, which means now they have a higher play count and also a higher purchase count um from the get-go, and hopefully they can have a much higher impact on like first day gameplay.
So, and to kind of elaborate a little bit, you only pay for the base EA Plus, not the EA Premium Plus or whatever it is. Not you pay
I
for the
think so.
you pay for the cheaper one or the more expensive one?
That's a great question. I don't know anymore.
I don't.
I think I still pay for the base.
Okay, so you pay for the base one, which is actually the one that I think is beneficial for EA because it gives you trials to any of their new games, lets you get early access to the game, like when it would be early access launch. It's a good thing. And it gives you, I want to say 10 hours of play on that. So it gives you 10 hours to play the game and go, yeah, I'm gonna buy this. Or I'll wait on this type thing. And of course discounts, stuff like that. Plus they give out free games. Um like I think on my EA Plus I still have my copy of Wing Commander 3, which is actually the first Wing Commander I played. So you're not remembering which one you have?
I'm looking it up.
I was gonna say if it's attached to your PlayStation, that should be the base one.
No, it's not. It's attached to my computer.
Okay.
I have Play Pro, actually.
You have Play Pro? Okay, so you have the other one, the one that I don't ever pay for reasons.
Well,
Um
you can go stand in the corner for that one.
I just call up a buddy and go, yo. And he goes,
Like I
yo.
said,
I
you can go stand in the corner.
oh no, I accidentally hit a button and you have a year free. Oh, weird. Odd.
Yeah,
Huh.
no.
That code must have just dropped somewhere.
I want to say like when I got it though, they only had Play Pro. They didn't really have Play.
Yeah, I think Play came out later.
Yeah, and I think I pay it on the monthly and not on the annual because I don't like having the big charges that hit and I don't remember when they hit.
I've only got one of those, and that's Amazon, and that comes out in September.
Yeah, I have several and I'm not thrilled about them. They hit at random times like Figma and I go, Oh, son of a bitch. Or Microsoft 365.
I
Oh,
no, I have a second one. That one comes up soon, but that's because I just recently was looking at it, and
and
that's
I
delete
think
me
PlayStation Pro. I also or a PlayStation
plus.
Plus. That's also I have on annual
That one's
because they
monthly
don't
for
give
me.
you they don't give you a monthly option.
Yeah, they should give you. Well, I'll have to come up
Or
and look.
maybe they do and I just didn't see it at the time. I don't know.
They do. They give you both.
Clearly,
So
clearly, despite the fact that I work in tech, I don't pay attention to this.
most people that work in tech don't.
um, I think at the time when I got Play Pro, it was probably right around.
When we were or probably before we were living together, right?
No,
Maybe around the
it
same
might
time.
have been because I've had The Sims 4 since it came out. Might have been. Um, honestly, that's a rabbit hole I'm not going to go exploring down. But it was useful, especially for things like The Sims. It was useful when I was trying to play Fallen Order on my laptop. I mean, I don't use it for a whole heck of a lot, honestly. I know I tried Inquisition because of it. Yeah. I mean, technically, my Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which I play on Steam more if I'm going to play it, is connected to my EA account for the discounts. But
Because everything's just
yeah,
kind of connected weirdly like that nowadays.
yes, yeah. Like I don't honestly use EA Play all that much at this point, so I might need to downgrade it anyway. Because I'd still get the benefits, like you said, of that first package.
Yeah, and
I think
again, you still get like 10 hours. Like a new game's coming out, and they're like, "Here, 10 hours free play,"
right.
and you're like,
Well,
"All right,
and
cool."
most of the time these days, blasphemous as it sounds, I play on more on my PlayStation.
I don't.
Just because, like, despite my laptop being capable of gaming, most of those nice new games cannot handle my graphics card, or my graphics card can't
Can't
handle the
handle those
games.
games.
So
Yep. I was
yeah,
gonna.
it's just easier
I was gonna
to
say
play.
I got the tax write-offs right over here, so the
Hmm.
PlayStation, then
Yeah.
the the YouTube compliant magazines.
Hmm. Yeah. No, it's a lot easier to do that on my PlayStation, just because and plus then I'm not stuck in this room all day. Um, because more often than not, I'm actually working at this desk now, as opposed to the one up in our loft. Just because if I have meetings, then I'm not bugging Krista. Um,
That's
so I
that's
don't actually
smart.
use EA Play all that much. I should actually downgrade it so I can still pay into it, but
Get
I'd
your
still,
get your
The
benefits.
Sims.
Yeah.
When I'm on a Sims kick, um, which is really only when there's fun new shit in The Sims.
Have you checked out that new? It's not Sims, but that new Sims-like game, the Korean one that came out on
No.
Steam. I don't remember what it's called. It literally launched like last month or something like that. I
Huh.
don't remember what it's called. Oh my gosh. We were like literally just talking about this. See if I just freaked things out. No, I did not.
I think The Sims just attempted to start on my computer, and I was like, "Wait, no." Um,
God, what is it called? I have no. I can't remember. It's like
that's okay.
it's a Sims like game, but I don't know what it's called anymore.
Fair enough. I mean, yeah, I play once in a blue moon when I'm really like feeling it, and that's about it. Um,
So sorry, when I swapped my keyboard over, it gave me the sound like my capture card was still on. I'm like, my capture card's gonna be on. Yeah, I mean, and I'll even go here because I'll play good cop with Kayla on this for a minute. Um, it's always a good thing. Subscription bases like that are a good thing to help get people into games, let people get to try out games beforehand. The reason why I say like Nintendo and PlayStation don't count in where we go a little more in depth with this is they have trials. They have free games on their systems. Um, Nintendo's is primarily because it's for like all the older consoles and they've got two tiers to that. Cool, whatever. I'll get the second tier when I eventually get a Switch 2 so I can play Metroid Prime 4 and then I'll be able to play my GameCube version with Soul Calibur 2 and beat everyone up in Soul Calibur 2. That's besides the point. Um but then, Sony's got it, and Sony rarely pits like brand new games out, like full releases. I think Stray was one of them that they did, and I didn't realize that, but I still bought it anyways because I was excited for that game. Um, and you get to play as a cat going around a post-apocalyptic world. Oh hell yeah! Knock around shit,
Yeah.
be a menace to society, and you're an orange cat. You're
Mm-hmm.
literally Creamsicle walking around being an asshole. Um, but a lot of it's like older games, and then of course usually not new releases, and if there are new releases, they're trials, which is great. You get to try out a game, play it, see if you like it. If you don't like it, cool. You didn't spend any money than what you're already spending for your subscription. And then you get into things like where EA, Ubisoft, and Microsoft do a lot more. Even though Microsoft's kind of like how PlayStation is, it's both their live connection so you can play online games and the ability to play certain games and whatnot. Um, Theirs is more regulate or geared towards, hey, here's this new release and have fun with it. That's what like EA Plus or EA Pro is, Ubisoft Plus, Xbox Game Pass does. And again, still a good thing. It is a good thing because it allows people who aren't able to go out and buy a game every month. I completely understand. To get to play those new releases and just have fun and enjoy them and be like, oh, I get to play this game. This is awesome. Blah blah. And it's a good thing. It really is. It does eventually get to a downfall point. And that's where you get to like why like Ubisoft is God, I don't even know what their stocks are right now. They've been like on the down slope for
Fairness,
multiple reasons.
I don't think that's just because of their subscription service.
No, it's not just because of that.
You
They're
know,
it's-
there's between the general annoyance of things like Star Wars Outlaws
mhm.
and then pushing releases, which I can understand. I can understand pushing releases, it's not a bad thing, but it does reduce the amount of people who are interested because now you've started pushing. You know,
So yeah, Ubisoft uh, they have gone from Ubisoft FF, which is the French market, is down to 11.55 USD at a height of 16 in the last 3 months. If you just look year to date, or let's see, they've gone from in the last 5 years gone from being worth $105 down to just under $12, which
taking a bit of
is
a downturn.
they've been on a downtrend for a while.
Yes.
And EA's not been doing much better. I think they're slightly better in stocks. And that's not purely because of the subscription, but the subscription base is also a big portion of saying this, it's a big portion of what they push too, because they want people on that subscription. That's a constant monthly amount coming in. If you have 10 million players paying $18 a month, 10 million people paying $18 a month, what, 180 mil?
Million, yeah.
That's pretty good. Do they have it? No, I think the only group that has that much for their subscription base specifically is Xbox. And Xbox One it was projecting. I want to say it was 2 years ago they were projecting that they for Xbox Game Pass to be profitable, they need to turn a profit of 33 million subscribers, and they
Mhm.
missed the mark by 21 million subscribers. They only have 12 million subscribers, which
Yeah,
luckily Xbox has Microsoft backing them, so they can kind of take that hit. It's just not
I
where
was
they
gonna say.
want.
No, of course not. But like, just thinking of some of the games that have come out recently for Ubisoft.
Outlaws.
Outlaws, which did not do well.
Okay, let's face it. Like I was like, okay, that's kind of like this cool concept.
Mhm.
This, you're playing, you know, scruffy nerf herder, for the lack of better words. Getting to do some stealth missions. You're a smuggler, cool, evading the Imperial patrol. While I'm looking like, that's a lot of ground and it's super open world. Okay, that might be okay. And then what really got me is the main character sneaking up behind a stormtrooper with her fist, and going. I'm like, okay, I get it. There's a joke. Stormtroopers can't hit anything, and if they get shot once, they're dead. But let's face it, that's
Yeah,
power armor. Not a normal person is not going to walk up and punch a stormtrooper and kill them.
yeah. I
You're going
mean,
to punch them and break your fist.
the sad thing is that with this game, and I can't remember what was the other Star Wars game that came out recently that wasn't under an EA property. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. But unfortunately, what Ubisoft and some of the other companies are doing are making the case that Disney should renew the exclusivity contract with Ubisoft.
With Ubisoft or EA?
Or, I'm sorry, with EA, because like we know EA can do it well, especially with Jedi Fallen Order, now Jedi Survivor,
Survivor,
and
which are amazing games, by the
absolutely
way.
likely with the third one. Hmm?
I said which are amazing games, by the way.
Yes, they are. And despite Battlefront 2's pay to win strategy that blew up in EA's face, the Battlefront remakes were fairly strong
Hmm.
to the point that people are now asking for a Battlefront 3.
Absolutely. They want a Battlefront that's not going to be predatory
Of course.
in in all of its microtransactions, like I don't know, an Activision game. Oh, Activision has one through Blizzard Activision has one as well, but
Which one?
I think that one went wayside when they got bought by Microsoft officially, but they had
Yeah.
one.
But yeah, like Outlaws, that was a big hit for Ubisoft. That was a big hit for almost any company that's not EA building games. I mean, one of their biggest releases in the last 5 years was Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and that just happened to be the perfect storm of pandemic.
Yep, and people wanted to play it and they needed something. Because the next game
Right.
after that was not Origins came before Valhalla, and then
Mirage.
Mirage. And Mirage was almost,
Mirage was a return to the old play style with mix of the RPG stuff.
yeah, which I get where they're going, but I'm like, I actually almost would have liked it to be like the old style and take out the RPG elements
Mhm.
and give us that kind of style. I think
Yeah,
that would
but
have
the
been
thing is
okay.
they wanted to do more building on Basim because of how popular he was in Valhalla.
Hmm.
Um, you know, and then of course now we have Shadows, which actually has done decently well. I think it's got a player amount that's similar to Valhalla, even if it took a little longer for them to get there. Obviously it has its issues. I know you have your issues with Shadows.
I've got a lot of issues with Shadows, but that's
Well, and
besides
you
the
know,
point.
most people will point out Shadows is solid, but as time goes on, the plot kind of drops off. You know, the third act doesn't actually connect to the main thing that you were doing for the first two.
Oh, so they took a hard left, and you're like,
Well,
all
you
right.
know, like so for the first two acts, you're trying to basically kill this group that helped overthrow Nobunaga and murdered and murdered Naoe's father. You know, because murdered Naoe's father and
Hmm.
stole a piece of Eden that she and her father and her father's people were protecting. And then you get to the last one, and he just kind of gives you the piece of Eden and goes, "I wash my hands of this. The Templars told us to do it." So now you're after the Templars. And like, fine, fine, fine.
Could have baked
Am
them
I
into that.
thrilled
I'm
about
just
it?
saying.
No. Well, you literally have a character that has interacted with the Templars before, and we know this because Yasuke recognizes the assassin's blade. He knows a couple of the Templars. One of them, it's very personal for him. But there's not a whole lot of explanation before this point as to why.
I think they should have gone with the original and just changed it that you could be a male or female shinobi. That
Uh,
you were going after Hidetoshi or Ieyasu Hidetoshi, who
mm,
is the one who started the coup d'etat against Nobunaga, and he does pass away, but it's not by Tokugawa's hands.
mhm.
He dies when Ieyasu dies when he was over in Korea, when he was trying to conquer Korea, and
Yeah,
that's where they were going to take you. Is you went all over Japan and then into Korea and killed him to take the sword which Nobunaga had, which was a piece of
piece of it.
piece of Eden,
Yeah.
which is all I forgot which sword that they were it was going to be the 7-star sword. I forgot
Mhm.
what they were saying. That was the original plot line. And I'm
Well,
like, they could have still given us Yasuke in it, but have Yasuke being the initial like act one,
yeah,
act
Yasuke would have been
two.
more beginning because
Yeah.
Yasuke kind of fades into obscurity after Nobunaga's death. But like, it wasn't. It's not a bad story. It's just that once you hit the end of the second act, you're kind of like,
It falls apart.
It's not so much it falls apart. It just doesn't have the same wow factor. It doesn't have the. It doesn't feel the same because it's not like a whole bunch of daimyos who are all. I mean, they all want Nobunaga gone for their own reasons, and they all have their own, thoughts on what it truly means to be a warrior in Japan. But then all of a sudden, now we have the Templars. We've Anglicanized the villain, which is a little annoying, especially given that.
The really messed up part is, and of course, if this is Ubisoft doing research, if they had realized it, they would have been like, oh yeah, Nobunaga was a Templar because Nobunaga was Christian.
They didn't play into that very much.
Nobunaga was a Christian.
Yeah, they didn't play into that very much.
Just
And
saying.
they would have had to make Yasuke different because Yasuke was like
Yeah, no,
very anti-Temple.
yeah.
But I mean, Assassin's Creed is one of the things that's holding them up right now. In addition to Just Dance,
And
and Rainbow Six,
Rainbow Six.
and Rabbids. And
It's not looking good for Ubisoft right now,
it's
especially
not.
since they
And
are tanking and they sold, funnily enough, all 4 of those properties we talked about are going to a company that is partially owned by Tencent.
yeah, I mean, and then like I was super excited for this game that I'm going to talk about here, and it was a good game, don't get me wrong, which is Frontiers of Pandora. Like
Is
I was excited for it. It's the Avatar game.
Okay, that I was about to ask. Like, is that the Avatar game? I saw someone.
Yes.
I remember seeing it played and then heard nothing about it after that.
Oh,
So
it's stunning.
I
Like
bet.
it's gorgeous. You actually do get to fly around once you get your own Ikran mount. It's a lot of additional story build to the world of Avatar, which is really kind of cool. Because there's no crossover with Jake and the Omotakani.
It's its own
It's an entire like there's mentions, but it's like the stuff in
in the movie.
the opening cut the opening cutscene is like 10 years before the movie. Then the second cutscene, or second, then there's another cutscene that's right during the events of the third act of the movie, during the war between
Yeah.
the RDA and the Pandorans, or the Navi, and then you wake up and it's been like 15 years.
Okay, so they
You've
took
been in cryo for 15 years.
that's good. Like I'm pretty sure James Cameron had a lot of say in that.
Oh,
That there's no
I'm
way that he's going to
Oh, of
do that.
course not. But yeah, I mean, so like there's mentions of Jake. You're still working with the members of the resistance against the RDA, but it's around the time that Avatar 2 takes place where the RDA has returned and, you're working to get rid of them, especially given that one of them was the person that basically kidnapped you and your friends and brought you in as like they were basically going to train you to be sleeper agents against the Na'vi. Um like that's the best way I can put it. um like trying to indoctrinate the Na'vi into westernized Earth culture. And so like it's very good, and there's a bigger focus on like you're not just destroying facilities, but by destroying facilities you're improving air quality, you're improving, the wildlife that exists, etc.
You're having an actual effect in the world.
Correct. I haven't played through all the DLC yet. But the problem is that there's still heavy, heavy bugs every time that they come up with a DLC. Like they just came up with they one of their most recent releases introduced a bug into the main game where after you complete it's like right before the end, it's right before it's mid second act really. You're supposed to go interact with a character as a side quest. And the problem is that this character is also a major quest giver for the entire game. If she's
Mm,
at the spot she's supposed to be,
you
you
just
cannot
can't
interact
interact
with
with her.
her.
I
So it
hear.
basically breaks the game. Like there's other things you can do, but you can no longer progress story and make a major character decision because she's frozen. I think they fixed it now, is what I've read, and I just haven't played it yet because then I'd have to reinstall it. But like that when I liked Frontiers of Pandora, but that's a big game. I don't know if they're gonna make another. I mean, they've got 2 DLC so far, and I think there's plans for a third. And then I think it depends on what happens with the next Avatar movie.
You know what? The only thing I'm gonna say there about all of that is Matt Damon. You're an idiot. Did you hear how much he was offered to take up the main role in the first Avatar movie?
But think about it, the first Avatar movie was a massive risk.
It was, but did you hear what he was going to be given?
No.
10%
Oh my god.
of
10%.
all Avatar revenue.
10%. And let's look at the first Avatar film was,
Which
up until Endgame, the highest grossing film of all time.
10% of all Avatar
Yeah.
revenue.
I think, though, I
That
liked Sam Worthington better for that.
I think, yeah, overall it was better. But if I was Matt Damon, I'd be like, fuck, I couldn't have retired and never had to work a day in my life. 10%, man. 10% of $1 billion is $100 million.
I know.
Before DVD sales and streaming
Before the
rights and
yeah.
second
And then, of
movie
course,
and video games and oh yeah.
and then, of course, he'd be in the next 4 movies.
which I even two still grossed over 1 billion,
I know.
if I remember right. So still,
It, and 2 was stunning. I mean, not to
oh,
mention,
I've seen some of the CG stuff. They're like, oh yeah, that's full CG. It's like, no, it isn't. That's like
yes, this.
a hand in water and them like they're like a painted hand in water. They're like, no, that's all CG. Like,
Yeah, no, they
how,
had to like
how,
reinvent
how?
CG for all of those water shots. That's why it took so long for it to come out. They had to reinvent things. But then even like half the cast, because they were still shooting scenes in the water to get the realistic stuff. Like I think Kate Winslet set like a breath holding record at one point. Um yeah, no, but Ubisoft's kind of in trouble. It's only got a couple franchises that are propping it up right now.
And those are going to a different
Yeah,
another company essentially,
and its
and
fan bases are shrinking because people are still somewhat disappointed in the quality.
their quality
I
has
mean,
gone downhill hard.
well, and it's like I'm always surprised that all these companies aren't learning the lesson of CDPR and Cyberpunk.
I was going to say no one's taking Nintendo's what's his name? I can't remember. Uh Toro, before he passed away, what he stated in a press conference long ago is a delayed game is good. A rush game is forever bad because if you put out a game and it's already broken, you don't delay it to take the time to make it better. It will always be a broken mess. No matter how much you're patching it, there's no way you're going to recover anything from
Right.
it.
I mean, I've officially given up on Cyberpunk. I will never finish it. I will never finish Phantom Liberty because I just ran into a bug to end all bugs, and CDPR announced they're no longer supporting Cyberpunk.
What bug? What did you get?
Basically, okay, so you know how like you have the different romances
Mm-hmm.
that rely a lot upon waiting like a day or two, and then the character calls you to set up the next meet.
Mm-hmm.
Those aren't happening. Like I've gone back into old saves. I have fixed the data. You know, I've made sure I've done 100% everything that the instructions say to make sure that this particular interaction happens. It never happens. And then I realized that it wasn't just romance missions. It was like the Manchurian Candidate mission. The final mission for that never popped
Because
because it's
something broke
hard.
in there.
And so like you go and you look at some of these fixes and they're like, yeah, no, you either have to go into console commands, which I'm like, I'm playing on PlayStation, so that's not happening. uh or you have to go to like this one location at the furthest edge of the map. You have to save your game, you have to shut down, you have to come back, you have to jump 24 hours and then leave the location, and maybe you'll get the call. I mean, even like my last Delamain mission, I had to go find the alternate trigger because you can either be called or you can encounter the car crash and
Yeah.
trigger the mission that way.
So you
I
had to
had to go
go
find the
find
car
the
crash.
car crash. Yep.
Yeah. So like CDPR was in trouble with that because of how big Cyberpunk was supposed to be to their bottom line. I mean, it was still pretty big, aside from the fact that, oh, right, PlayStation took it off their store for a while. Like,
Because it was a broken mess.
it was a broken mess, because it still is a broken mess.
That's true.
I
That's why I
mean,
play it on my PC.
well, that wouldn't have really fixed it either.
Yeah, no, but at least I get console commands to fix
Well,
it.
actually, I don't think it was either console commands or I actually had to go into the save file and turn the triggers on within the
That could
save
be.
file.
Yeah.
Which, either way, that's a bitch.
Yeah, that's not easy. That's not something you can easily do.
No, because you don't really want to fuck with a save file that much because you could corrupt other data. Like,
You could just
unless it's like
corrupt
a
the
super,
save file completely.
right, unless you're talking about an older game like KOTOR, where you can absolutely go fuck with the save file and you're probably not going to fuck too much stuff up. The more recent games, the more complex games, you can't do that to. So, unless you have a reputation for creating bugged games and it's forgivable because your community is mod heavy like Bethesda.
I was going to say Bethesda.
Bethesda's the only community that can get away with this because their mod community expects it, and most of them are already starting to gear up mods by the time the game comes out.
Most of them already know what the code is because that engine's
Right.
15
But
years old, 20 years
everything
old
else,
almost.
yeah, everything else, it's not acceptable.
I mean, I don't
I mean,
think it's acceptable from Bethesda anyways, but yeah,
it's
everyone's just
not.
like we give them a pass not because we think it's acceptable because they're not going to change their ways, and we're all like, ugh.
Well, that, and also, I mean, with Bethesda, it's more about waiting for the mod to fix it, as opposed to having to go dig through endless subreddits to find the solution.
That is true too. That is true too.
Like, and that becomes annoying when you're trying to get shit done, because you're like, for my instance, like I try to get as much stuff done before Phantom Liberty as possible, because Phantom Liberty makes sense right before the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, this is fucking dumb.
It's annoying. It really is. Like I said, I haven't run into that. I've run into bugs, but I've had it since day one, and
Well, yeah,
it's been a beautiful broken mess. Okay.
yeah, I mean, I haven't had it quite since day one, but pretty damn close. And yeah, there were bugs. We learned the AV asynchronous issues drove me batty, or the random times where all of a sudden you were naked on the bike and you're like, the
Yeah.
fuck.
Just
But
straight up T-posing naked on the bike. Yeah.
yeah, like those were dumb. And obviously the way that like their driving mechanics get weird sometimes and don't always work the way you want them to. I mean, like my last playthrough, I was trying to speed and my bike would not exceed more than 50 miles an hour, and if it went up a hill, it immediately dropped to 10.
That's weird. I've never encountered that. But I will state
Mhm.
this: the driving mechanics were pretty bad. That I'm like, if I
Yes.
was driving anywhere, I actually had to turn on a controller on my PC to play because you could not die. It
Well,
was
I
like
feel
worse
better
than
about
tank
old
controls.
Christopher. But no, it's just, and that really bones for CDPR because they don't put out a whole lot of games. Comparative to EA, comparative to Ubisoft, comparative to other bigger studios, CDPR doesn't put out a lot. So, like, as much as they have this loyal fan base for, like, Witcher 4, there's also going to be the question of, well, we know you guys don't actually bug test the way you're supposed to. So, how's that going to go?
There are bugs in Witcher 3.
I
Of course,
know.
if there were bugs in Witcher 3, only if you could play Witcher 3, because there's a lot of people that couldn't play Witcher 3 when it came out.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. It's like, because, like, what? Didn't they came out shortly after Cyberpunk saying, we didn't bug test Cyberpunk at all? And it's like, are you fucking kidding? Speaking as someone in tech, you QA, and as something I have to keep bringing up to my product managers recently is, you don't just QA, you test a break.
Yep, you test a break. Well, and I will state this, and this kind of falls on streamers, fans, because they were constantly delaying it because they're like, no, it's not working the way we want it to. We need to do this. We still need to test it. And people are like, no, we want the game now. And they're like, well, we're not. And then start sending them death threats. And like, well, I guess they want the game now. So let's just put the game out. And then we'll just
I feel
deal with
bad for them.
consequences.
I mean, come on, they released that trailer, what, 5-6 years before release?
Yeah, something like that.
That's too early.
That's the way the market or the gaming industry works nowadays.
It
Is
can be, but not always. I mean, and then you get games where you get the hype and then it never happens because it's gone into development hell, like the KOTOR remake.
I will say I can't wait for the physical copy, but let me grab the one physical copy. All right, 5 years. Yes, this is still sealed because it's on PlayStation as well. 5 years. We saw the trailer for this. 5 years before release, it came out amazing and practically perfect in running. It ran well. There was like almost no graphical issues. It was a great game. The
It
next,
might be because of my problems with things like, I mean, as you know, Chase, I'm a big Her Interactive Nancy Drew fan.
mm-hmm.
2015, Her Interactive was really by 2015. So between like 2008 and 2015 ish, they were releasing 2 games a year, like clockwork. Halloween 2015, we were supposed to get Midnight in Salem. We get told about a week after release that it has been postponed because they're swapping over to Unity. Fine. That is about the last update we hear for 5 years.
That's
And after years, I mean, Her Interactive's been making games for Nancy Drew since the late 90s.
Yeah.
They've never had a period that long where you got nothing. And of course, there's shit that happened behind the scenes, but they didn't bother to keep players updated. So, like, sure, Her Interactive went through a massive layoff, and then they brought in a contractor to continue building the game. But then you go play the game, and you realize it wasn't worth the 5 minutes, the 5 years,
that it
5.5
was.
years actually, that it took. And it was such an annoyance because, like, I mean, we knew that they were going to switch the voice actor because they felt that Lanny Pania was too old. Fine. Were we happy about it? No, but we lived. But then you get this game, and literally, while you had the uncanny valley effect with the old characters, at least they didn't look low poly. You know, like, everything went down in quality, and they totally abandoned aesthetic that the old games had. They abandoned the controls, and given that the vast majority of their players do not play on a computer game setup, but they play on a laptop with a trackpad, was a stupid move. It was like Her Interactive was trying to bring Nancy Drew to a newer audience, forgetting the fact that for the last 30 years, they've had a very loyal audience that they just pissed off.
Yeah, that's the group of people you don't piss off is your loyal fans.
No. I talked to a bunch of them because I did a project to redesign its UI to make a point, really. They were not happy. You know, and it meant that when their next game after that came out, less people played. I mean, there's parts like me as a sound designer, as opposed to me as a UXer, it pisses me off because it's like, for one, they have this big wide open space, and within that wide open space, you can stand in one spot and you can see 4 characters with the exact same model. Like the exact same clothes, hair, glasses, and you're like, what the fuck? You couldn't put them in like different. No. And then on top of that, if you go talk to one of them, it's like, it's not recorded in a sound booth. It's not recorded on a quality mic. It's not recorded by a English speaker. And it's clear this was either placeholder audio or a, oh shit, this is an interactable character. We need to fix something. We need to add something right now.
I was gonna say last minute. I was gonna say because I think that's the reason one of the games I'm waiting for right now is Mecha Break. And the only reason it's not out yet is I'm pretty sure that they're getting an actual voice actors because the entire betas have been all AI, and you could tell they were all AI. You really could because some of the wording and how they were talking, like, yeah, that's an AI talking. There's like, they'd be like, pilots, get to your mechs. We are under attack. Like, wow, where's the emotion? Where's the urgency? Yeah. It got better because obviously trained AI gets better, but I think they're taking their time to make sure that they get voice actors for it. So,
but yeah, no, it's just like you look at some of these things and you're just like, the fuck is this? But like, then you go like for Ubisoft right now, you're right. Its saving grace is that there's money coming in every month. And this is why they're reporting players.
not units sold.
Yes, because more people are playing Assassin's Creed Shadows because they have the Ubisoft Pass, as opposed to actually purchasing Assassin's Creed Shadows. You know, unless you're playing on like
PlayStation,
on a PlayStation or on an Xbox, where you have to purchase it because that doesn't carry. Which is why it's to their benefit to report players. Players also can sound more impressive without sounding like super money. And I'm sure it's something like I can see the benefit of talking about how many players have played, especially when you're talking about a game that's low price to no price, or that's being sold on a subscription service.
Hmm.
But if you're not talking about profit, you can also scare your shareholders, which is why we start seeing problems with stock.
Yep. So first things first, I want to state this. Expedition 33, Sandfall Entertainment, congrats. They
Mhm.
sold. So they announced this yesterday. That 33 days after Expedition 33 came out, it had sold 3.3 million units. You could not time that better. Expedition 33 on the 33rd day was able to report that they had sold 3.3 million
Well,
copies.
and on top of that, because it's Sandfall and what they're not on a
33
subscription
there's
service.
33 people that
There's
work at that company.
Well, I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about
But
like I
yeah,
mean that's some wonderful serendipity, and I do like the symmetry reflectiveness of the numbers. I can't remember quite the term, but like because Sandfall is so small, they're not on a subscription service.
yep,
So that 3.3 million units sold is also indicative of how many people are playing.
yep. Now,
That is almost on par with Shadows and Valhalla.
so players play people who have played the game is over that obviously because it was on Game Pass, and
Hmm.
Microsoft tried to be chiming and went, well, we helped with that 3.3 million. No, you did in a sense, but a lot of people who got on Game Pass didn't go up and buy it after. They just kept playing it on Game Pass. Again, here's where this issue comes in. The smaller
Yeah.
people tend to get screwed over. And my biggest example is actually Liza P. Liza P is a great example in this.
Mm.
Liza P, Microsoft paid Liza P, the development group for Liza P, like 10 million to put it on Game Pass, which again is not, that's not something to scoff at. But
No.
when you look at the amount of players that were playing on Game Pass, if they had just bought it, the company would have made like $24 million. So Xbox got it stole essentially, in a sense, $14 million from them.
Yeah. I mean, that's where like having there should be I mean having like those lower tier packages that have limits on how much you can play,
That's
that's
where it
really
comes in.
beneficial because then you can try and play, and if you like it, you've now become a conversion.
Hmm.
That's when Microsoft can go, "Hey, we helped."
Yeah, and that's a big thing. If Microsoft said, "Hey, we helped," and it's like this was only on a 10-hour trial, so people only got to play for 10 hours, and then they had to go buy the game. That's a completely different thing. And I think if that was the case, they would have hit 33 million or 3.3 million units way earlier. Honestly, this game is literally a game of the year contender without a doubt,
Yeah.
if not game of the year. Um, but that's a great thing, and it didn't need a subscription service to sell. Then you go on flip side, of course, you get Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed, I think they announced like 5 million overall players
For
finally.
Shadows?
Yeah.
Huh.
It was. I know they said 3 or 4 million at some point in time.
It was 4 at one point,
They might
and it
have
was
announced 5 million within the last couple of weeks. I couldn't find the tweet about it. Reminds me of PlayStation Plus depending on. Yep, that's the same thing. What Avenger said. It's the PlayStation Plus, depending on your subscription
yeah.
base, is based off of what you can get access to. Um, but we finally got sales numbers for Shadows. And it barely broke 2 million units sold.
Mm.
It's like
Which then makes me
2.2
wonder.
million units sold, which means if it's 5 million players that have played, or 5 million people have played the
That means
game
3 million of them are coming from Ubisoft.
from EA Plus,
EA Plus
or not EA,
or
Ubi
Ubisoft Plus.
Plus, yeah, from Ubi
Yeah, I
Plus,
mean
which is
that's not great.
And I stated that game needed to sell like 5 million units to make its money back. It was between $500 to $700 million to make it. It's a quadruple A game.
Oh, 5 to 7 million to
Five,
play, and then
570, 500 to 700 million to create that
500.
game. Yeah, 500 to
Yeah,
700. But they
I
needed
was
like
about to
5
say like
million units sold to be close.
5 million units sold, and it's about $60 for the base game, so you're about 300 there. Um,
It also didn't help. I think they gave away almost like 500 copies for free
well,
on
that's pocket
X.
change. That's pocket change. It didn't help that they gave one away to someone that I'm not going to make this political about, but yeah, I mean, it's so interesting too that we look at these games and we think about, it's not like movies where the ride or die metric is how much did you make in the box office versus how much the game cost. That
Hmm.
turns a game into a success or a flop. Whereas in games, it's not about, it's, I mean, that's a loss for the studio, but that's not the focus. The focus is how many players, the focus is the artistry, the focus is the bugs, the focus is all of these other things, probably because games are a more immersive experience because you have to physically interact with them.
Yep, that is true. The other one, and I actually posted this, and again, I even stated this in players versus units sold. We don't know
Hero?
if this was 100%. Sup, hero? 100% if this was if this is accurate. It's semi accurate because I know about 40,000 people bought the game on Steam. But Doom
Hmm.
Dark Ages announced that they had hit 3 million players within a few days. Awesome. Except for they use that word players, which
Yeah.
is kind of scary. And if these numbers are right, they only sold 20,000 units on PlayStation, 40,000 units on Steam, 20,000 units on Xbox. The rest, the 2.2 million players that we're missing, are all Game Pass players.
Ugh. I really hope then that they're getting a cut of that profit.
The only benefit for Bethesda there is they're owned by Microsoft.
Well,
That
fair.
and that's that right there is a different like aspect there, is because Microsoft, you paid on Game Pass and you're not owned by Microsoft, you're going there's a chance you're getting a shit end of the deal. And that's true with anyone that's going to do a subscription service for your game. There's a chance you're getting a shit end of the deal. You might be getting a really good portion of the deal. Who knows? You never know. It's Russian roulette on that aspect. You could
Sure.
probably put the game out on Steam, PlayStation, and Xbox. Xbox goes, "Hey, we want to pay on Game Pass. We'll pay you 10 million," and you only get like 10,000 people on Xbox, but you get 100,000 people on Steam. You walked out pretty well off there, But on the opposite end, you get like 100,000 people on Steam and like 300,000 people on Xbox. You're like, well, you know, depending on your game and what they paid you, you might be getting the shit end of the deal. The
Yeah.
nice thing again, Bethesda's owned by Microsoft, so this isn't
So
that much of a big thing, but at the same time, your other two avenues, the PlayStation and Steam, really didn't do well. And that's could be indicative of just the game overall, because I've heard game feels so. People are like, the game is the game is hard, and I'm like watching again. If you don't bully game journalists, you don't bully them enough. Okay, bully game journalists. Don't send them death threats. Just bully them.
I don't want to bully them. I need them to write good reviews about games I make.
I'd rather the YouTubers do that. They're gonna be a lot
Well,
more honest and get more views on it. But literally one of the game journalists was talking about how hard the game is, and he was playing on an easier, not the easiest, but an easy difficulty. I think one above the easy, He's like, I can't see the enemies, and the enemies are like right there in front of him, and he's like
Yeah,
playing horribly. I'm like, dude, you're not making your argument look really well. No one's going to believe you that you're struggling.
I'm I'm no excellent game player. I like playing casually in story mode and shit, right? But like there have been games where there's virtually no difficulty select and I get into it and it's like I can't even leave this first level. It's like you should have had a difficulty select for the accessibility purpose because you are going to have people rage quit.
So I agree with that. But also like to counter argue that with the fact that I'm a Souls player. So
Well, yeah, you're a Souls player, but like I know. I
I,
know, but
I'll
like
I'll go ahead and state this. Here's the difference. Souls game that, obviously one difficulty, get good scrub type thing, right? Okay. Action based Souls like that has a difficulty slider that does well because they programmed everything for hard mode, made it easier from there.
mhm.
And they didn't take away from the experience. You still struggle on easy, but it's manageable. Jedi Survivor, I state this because I think was it Jedi Master is the difficulty I played on. Grandmaster was the hardest. Grandmaster felt almost impossible because their timings were like almost impossible to parry, and Master was good. It's like a good, like not harder than a Souls game, but it
Yeah,
definitely
I
wasn't
mean,
as hard as a Souls game. But then there was what, Knight, and then Padawan, and then there
I
was,
don't was it called Padawan or was it just called story mode?
I think story mode was the easiest. They had like 5 difficulties, if I remember right. It was like story, Padawan, Knight, Master, and
Mm.
Grandmaster.
I mean, because like
And
Fallen Order only has story, then night,
yeah,
then
no,
so on and so forth.
and then I think Survivor had story, Padawan.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I just
but I will say,
mean like
like, Knight and Padawan felt
similar.
similar and very, very easy. Like, story makes sense. It's like story. Okay, I'm in it for the story. I'm not. It's not
Yeah,
going to be difficult.
right. Well, I mean, because like you know me, Chase. I'm a game feel person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not about the super challenging gameplay. I'm about what does everything feel like? What's the immersion? What's the story? I'm the lore hound. Um, I roll shit on the dice, but I like all the story. But like, like the game I'm talking about, Steel Rising, which like I was looked amazing and it's very pretty, but it is a Souls-esque game with no difficulty select, which means I never made it past like the first turn in the maze. And I'm like, are we kidding?
There is there is a thing of like, it depends, and of course Avenger brought this up. Lesp will be getting a difficulty slider in for its DLC. I'm
Mhm.
hoping that the hardest difficulty is what the base game was like, and then they make it easier from there. Because again, I've even stated this, that can be a bad thing for especially Souls games, and especially if your original fact of the game didn't have that. I get it.
Yeah.
It's more accessible, it gets more people into it. But I think we're at a point. This isn't like Demon Souls and Dark Souls 1 and 2, like early internet, or I shouldn't say early Souls games where people weren't aware of how unforgiving some of these games are. And now you hear Souls game, or you hear From Software, and most people are like, oh, yeah, I suck at those games. I'm just going to avoid it for my own sanity. People just understand that, and that's great. It doesn't need to be any other way. On the
The
other hand, if there are games that are like that you don't know that they're going to be that type of game, and there's no
Mhm.
warning, that's a really good way of getting people to be turned off from those games. I
Oh,
will
for
always
sure.
tell people, I'm like, I love Armored Core, but I guarantee you play any of the Armored Core games, you will you will not like your life, because there are times that game is unforgiving,
Well,
and
and that's
it's
fair,
been
but
like
like
that
that.
since the first.
I mean, that's where UX and accessibility design starts to come into play, and we can have a talk about that later. But like if we were looking at other metrics that could be of value, I mean, because I think about this from the tech perspective and etc. But like, would be a good one would be replay. Steam counts how many hours that you're playing in a game.
Mm-hmm.
For one, you could show how many hours are people playing in this game. Because like if it's The Sims, and I don't know if we want to talk about how many hours I have in The Sims. But like, you know, hours for that game is huge because The Sims isn't really a replayable game. It's a game where you just keep doing shit.
And then
But
you sit there and go, oh, well, I guess I'm going to start something new. I was going to say,
right,
I'm the person that's proud of my game time. I have 360 days in Final Fantasy 14.
yeah,
Not hours, days. I have legitimate, like almost a full year of playtime in that game. And that's a great metric to get, because you can sit
yeah,
there and be like, we have 3 million players, and each player has been averaging 6 hours a day on this game. And people
yeah,
are going to be
and
like, oh, that's actually really good. But the better thing is also, and I'll always say this, I guarantee if Ubisoft went and said, hey, we've got 3 million people on Shadows. We only have sold like 1.5 million units, but we think all 3 million people that have been playing it, whether you bought it or you're playing it through Ubisoft for
will
helping us,
complete it.
for playing it and helping us and showing support. You know what most, like, people like Grums and myself and other people would have sat there and gone,
Mhm.
hey, you're being honest and open about everything. You're using players, but you're also telling us how many units you sold. You're not giving
Yeah,
us like the breakdown, but you're giving us units sold. So now we know, and we can go, okay, so we were wrong here on this aspect. Where there's a lot of people that when they broke them, or 2 million players, people were attacking them like, oh, well, see, look, they got 2 million people, or 2 million units sold, and everyone's correcting them going, that's players, that's not units sold. That's a
right.
different metric overall.
Well,
What's
and
the
here's the thing:
units?
when it comes to useful metrics, especially for something like Shadows, hours played.
Hours played is a great one.
That's a huge one for for a large open world RPG, because if you have an expectation of this game takes 40 hours to play and people are quitting at 20, you have a problem.
Hmm.
It's the same with like, I don't know how you'd measure this, but completion.
That
And not
is based
not
off of
trophy
trophies.
completion. Well, but that's my point. Not trophy completion. I mean, and sure, you could easily go with the, oh, you completed the game, you earned the completed game trophy.
Hmm.
But like, that should be something that they're focusing on, is who's gotten that trophy? Who's completed the storyline? Because if you have that, you now know you have people who are actually in it to play the game, or you have a problem.
Yeah. Again, and then there's an aspect in that, and again, we go back to like a Souls-like game or a
Hmm.
Souls game, and especially with Night Rain coming out tomorrow on consoles. It's out on PC right now. I can't wait to get into that, because it's a Souls game, but it's also a roguelite.
Hmm.
So it's gonna be interesting. I already played the beta. I enjoyed it. But one of the biggest aspects, and you can look at achievements from everyone, from Steam, PlayStation, Xbox, and you can see how many people have beaten the first big major boss, because it's one of the first
Yeah,
trophies you get. And it's like 54%. It's like, holy cow. Like, almost, it's across the board. It's like 54 to 60% of people have beaten the first boss. And you're like, oh, okay. But
yeah,
when you
that's
look at the completion of who beat the Elden Beast
hmm
across all platforms, it's less than 15%.
right. Well, and
And then
for a game
Millennia is
like
less than that.
Elden Ring, though, that makes sense. But for like, for
Yeah.
example, these large open world RPGs, especially given that Valhalla lucked out that it was the pandemic, because if it were not during the pandemic, it wouldn't have done as well as it did, because the open world fatigue is real in Valhalla. Same as the open world fatigue in Odyssey, and even in Shadows. I mean, Shadows is smaller than, every other map in Assassin's Creed is smaller than Valhalla, but there's still just so much open world fatigue that it's hard to finish sometimes. It's not like the Horizon games where there's enough to keep you going in between. It's not, oh, you need to kill 3 different people in 3 different areas of the map to keep going. It's, oh, there is a story quest at this point. So if you really don't want to do any more open world explore, you just go to the next point in the story.
Yeah, that's that is a very indicative thing of open world fatigue that happens. That happens in everything almost purely either by accident or because your game's not engaging enough. I can tell
Yeah.
you Horizon Zero Dawn. I haven't played the DLC and I haven't played the second game yet. But Horizon Zero Dawn, I was like doing everything. I was enjoying it. Red Dead
Yeah.
Redemption and Red Dead Redemption 2 are two of the best examples of this is an open world game and I'm out doing stuff and then I'm like, "Oh yeah, there's a main story quest around here. Oh yeah, I should probably go do that."
Hey, for Forbidden West, it's a Forbidden West has a much bigger map, so there's a lot of space in between, but there's still a lot of stuff to do.
Mhm.
It gives you a little bit of choice as to what you go do first, but like there's still all sorts of little bits of story. The collectibles actually have a bit more to them than just, oh, go collect and we'll give you a little reward after. Like,
They all mean something.
well,
The-
right, like in Forbidden West, there's these little hollow orbs that you can collect, that once you collect them all, you can basically go back and change the Las Vegas skyline whenever you want with these orbs.
I was gonna say, Avenger brought up another one. God of War
Yes, or
2018 and Ragnarok, open world games that you don't feel fatigued. And they're not
right,
huge, ridiculously open world maps, but they're still open world.
they are. And they're detailed, and there's lots of God of War, especially, just like HCD, there's a lot of, you have to pay attention or you'll miss things,
Mhm.
like Odin's fucking ravens.
I'm still missing a couple on 2018.
I'm
It's
probably am
driving
too.
me
Well, and
insane.
it's like if you had something like that or similar to it, like there's stuff in Assassin's Creed Shadows, but it's all region locked. So it's not like, oh, I want to go attack, you know, Shinobi across, not Shinobi, Shogun, not Shogun. Fuck.
Daimyo, Samurai.
No, no, close, but no. Ronin. Um, you know, going and fighting Ronin throughout the map, it's in that one region. You have a task to go attack Ronin. And it's only after a bounty's been put out on you, which is an annoyance. Whereas, like, there's the there's the goddamn words. There's Odin's damn ravens. There's collecting these items in HDD that give you a hint of the world before. Not to mention just like the different lore elements that you can find, just to give you a better idea of how the world got so fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, there's all of this extra stuff that's so much better because it adds depth. Not to
Yeah.
say that Shadows doesn't have depth, but it doesn't achieve it in the same way.
And I was going to say another funny part is like you talk about Shadows, and every single time is people mention Shadows, and I think of the gameplay, especially Yasuke's, because it's very similar to another game, and another game that's open world that doesn't suffer from that same fatigue is Ghost of Tsushima.
I was about to say, if you mentioned
That game,
Yasuke.
yeah, that game is that game came out on the PS4 and it was a PS5 game. It was beautiful from start to finish, played amazing. But I got lost in that world and was playing. I actually had to stop and force myself to continue story because if I didn't, that was going to be like 200 hours of me just dicking
Well, yeah.
around and doing
I mean,
absolutely everything.
most of my Zero Dawn playthroughs are me going and being like, oh shit, I need to upgrade all my gear. So I'm going to go hunt for 2 days to get all of the pelts that I need or all of the bones that I need and to make sure I have enough shards to do everything. And then I still don't have enough. And so I have to keep hunting. But, or it's like getting to see some of those more poignant, like, bits of lore, like, especially for you and me, Chase. The first thing right out of the Embrace in Horizon Zero Dawn is the freaking Air Force Academy.
Mm-hmm.
And then you
Oh,
go
I
up
love I
north.
love
There
going
it is.
into Red Rocks.
Right. And now you're in Morrison and you're just like, what the fuck? And then there's Denver. And you just sit there and you go, God damn it. I showed my dad a picture of the red wastes in Horizon Zero and he goes, oh yeah, that's Red Rocks. And I'm like, yes, Dad.
Yeah, it's we're Colorado people, so yeah, Horizon's all in Colorado, which is again they made it
Not all.
well, not all, but a lot of it is like Colorado, like
Well, right, because like
area.
once you hit Meridian, it's more like Utah, Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Frozen Wilds is Yellowstone.
Yep.
So that's Montana.
Yep. But yeah, and there's again it's weird because those don't suffer from the same fatigue. Again, those are games that it's weird that before like I'll even go back to this Game Pass when it first came out. The EA Plus or EA Pro,
Mm-hmm.
and Ubi Plus.
Right.
When they came out, I was like, these are really good ideas, but I wonder how this could become a bad thing. And now with how you can take into account all streaming services, Netflix, Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see. We've got Netflix, Amazon Video, or sorry, Prime Video,
HBO Max.
Max.
It's HBO Max again.
Oh, it's HBO Max, Paramount, Disney Plus,
Peacock,
Peacock,
Hulu.
Hulu,
There's Tubi.
ESPN, Tubi.
Yeah, ESPN. Technically, Showtime has its own. AMC technically has its own. Yeah, minimum.
That's if you were paying for all 11 that we just named. I'll add Crunchyroll in there because technically they bought Funimation as well, so or Funimation got merged into them. So Crunchyroll and I'm trying to think of the other one. There's two. High Dive. So that's 13. If you bought all 13 at their no ad subscriptions, because some of them have ad subscriptions that are under $10.
Yeah,
aren't bad. You're paying more than you were paying for like cable back in the day.
Yeah,
By like
I mean,
$100.
I don't think about the fact that I own 6 of them.
Netflix, Netflix, Prime, Crunchyroll, Max. I pay for 4 of them, and one of them's yearly because Prime.
Netflix, Prime, Paramount, Hulu, Disney, Max, and then I also have Roku, but Roku's free.
Yeah.
And of those, 3 of which my brother and my sister-in-law have the password to, and they technically owe me half, but we just don't talk about it.
So, and again, I will also state this. It's like I might shit talk. I 100% will shit talk like Game Pass, Ubi Plus, and EA Pro. I'm not against subscription services, guys. I literally play 14, which is a monthly service, and I played WoW for years before that. So I'm not against them, and I think they're
Those are
good.
different.
They're useful and they're good. They serve a port.
Those ones though, those are different.
Mhm.
Those are you're paying for a singular game, access to a singular game and its community and all of its updates.
Yep.
You know, you're paying for something that's still being supported, as opposed to, EA Play, where you're paying for, if you're paying on the cheap end, you're paying for discount, you're paying for at least 10 hours of access, you know, and then EA Play Pro, where you're getting the same base level stuff, but in addition, you're also getting access to the entire library, or whatever parts of the library EA sees fit to let you have.
Hmm. And that's another thing. Y- it's funny. So with these, and they do it very much like how Netflix and all these other ones do, where it's like, hey, here's this game, it's on here, and then like 6 months later, depending on like how it's doing, they might just pull it and you don't have access to it anymore.
I just had that happen with Horizon Zero Dawn. I had to go buy the actual remaster because I had it on PlayStation Plus and didn't realize.
Hmm. Some of
But yeah,
those,
I mean,
yeah.
it's well, and that's like the thing too with like even the video services that have subscription is you're paying for a massive library of things. It's not just a singular game. You're paying for a massive cadre of services, and some of those videos and such on and such forth, they are specific to that platform. I mean, the only reason I have Paramount Plus is so I can watch RuPaul's Drag Race and Criminal Minds Evolution. That's it. Yes, I know.
That's a
Very, very.
very two ends
I
of a
know.
spectrum thing.
Well, I grew up on Criminal Minds, and then I fell in love with Drag Race during the pandemic, and it was on Netflix and on Hulu, but now it's only on Paramount because MTV. So I have to have Paramount if I want to watch RuPaul. Evolution is so new and it's a Paramount Plus exclusive. It's not like Hulu where I watch a lot more things, and Hulu has a much broader depth of shows. And if Hulu decides that it's going to stop working, which tends to happen a lot, I can always jump to Disney Plus because, oh, that's right, Disney owns a portion of Hulu, so I can
Yep.
still watch The Handmaid's Tale somewhere. Um,
See, the only reason
the fact that
I was paying for Hulu was for The Rookie, but that's because Nathan Fillion.
well, if you want that, just go get Disney Plus and then you'll have it. No, I kid you not, because it's an
Yeah, no,
ABC
I
show.
know.
It's owned by Disney. Cause Hulu for some reason on my phone doesn't always it'll be like, oh, we have this show, and you go and look and it goes, no, you can't access this show. It's like, I was watching this show yesterday on Hulu, and it goes, nope, we don't have it anymore. And I'm like, the fuck you don't.
Yeah, the
But
only
Disney does.
other reason for Hulu is because um they pick it up is because Bleach.
Mm. I mean,
I'm caught up with Bleach right now, so I'm now waiting for the last season. And I'm also
Hulu's
kind
not.
of really
Yeah.
annoyed that I have to pick up Disney Plus if I want to go through and watch all the Macross series because
I'll give you my freaking login, man. But like, if there are Hulu originals that I want to watch, then I need Hulu. Like, I don't often have Netflix unless it's for certain, things that are on Netflix or Netflix exclusive, like Stranger Things, like Bridgerton, like the Avatar show. Like, there's points where like it's like, oh, I want to watch Castlevania. It's like, you know what? I'll just buy it on Prime, and then I don't have to deal.
I was gonna say the only real reason I have Netflix right now is that's where I can watch Raw, WWE Raw. So
Uh-huh.
the
But
only
yeah, like,
reason.
that's there's a lot of value to that. Plus, they're not trying to sell other things yet. Like, Disney had some success with that during the pandemic, where it was like, before it went out to everybody, you could buy it a couple weeks ahead of time and you could watch it. I did that a couple times with my brother and my sister-in-law, where we bought them. We bought like Mulan a couple, like, before it came out to before it went to just everybody on Disney Plus. so that my niece and my nephew could watch it.
Mm-hmm.
But so like, yeah, there's benefits, but there's also like huge drawbacks. The
Oh,
amount of subscription services you have, the fact that they very much become back of mind very quickly, as we proved today with me not remembering what type of freaking EA subscription I have.
I was gonna say you want to hear a really bad drawback with Disney Plus. Apparently, if their lawyers get involved in your significant other just so happens to die at the park, and you have Disney Plus,
Wow.
you don't have to. They don't have to pay you out.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna fly.
Apparently, it's like the guy's still trying to fight to even get into court because Disney's like, nah, it's somewhere hidden in the terms and agreements, like, and they've got a huge terms and agreement. So it's like, wow, okay, fuck you, Disney. Someone's significant other just died at one of your parks, and you're gonna be like, well, you have Disney Plus, so we're not at fault. It's actually your fault.
Yeah.
What?
But no, I mean, it's definitely, they all have their own benefits and drawbacks. I
They
think
really
probably
do.
one of the biggest ones is that a subscription is something that can very easily go back of mind, like we proved. And then you forget about it, and then all of a sudden you get the charge, or you realize you haven't really been playing The Sims in like 3 months, but you're still paying $14 a month.
I was gonna say, yeah, because it's funny. Someone came up with this greatest business idea ever, and I hate that they did this, and that I didn't think of this. And it's pretty much it's an API control of going through. They look at your email, and then they look for anything your email's attached to for subscription base, and go, hey, by the way, this is how much you're paying in subscriptions, and breaks down everything. I'm like,
Yeah.
obviously it's a subscription to pay for it so they can do this. So they're making bank, and they're like, we'll cancel this and get you the refund.
Helpful, sure, but it's not great yet. Like,
Mhm.
I have used those services before, and then I still get charged $250 for an annual subscription that I totally forgot about and haven't used in 3 years because it's not around enough. It's not hitting my email enough for the system, or
Yep.
the fact that I have 2 emails. So some of those emails, so like EA Plus is through my old email. So that means that if I'm putting in the email that I use for almost everything else, it's not going to pick up EA Plus.
And that is an issue, but I'm like, yeah, again, it's a great business idea, and they're making bank off of it.
Yeah, and it's definitely helped, and and then you kind of sit there and you ask yourself the hard questions. Like every now and then I look at Avid and I'm like, am I really paying for Sibelius when I haven't used it? And in the back of my head, I'm like, yes, because I will, hopefully again. And of course, I got to now re-up my freaking Pro Tools subscription.
I was gonna
Flickr,
say, that's why my Pinnacle one and done, so I don't pay a subscription on that. So it's like $90 out of pocket when I'm doing the upgrade, but better than paying another $200 when I originally bought it. So,
but here's the thing. So like I used to own just straight up Sibelius 5. But Sibelius 5 came out in like 2010.
and you're not getting updates, and now a lot of services,
Well, I have to pay
gone.
for the subscription version of Sibelius if I want to keep the updates, and also so that if I want to export things at the proper MIDI code that's updated to work with current DAWs. Like I shelled out like $250, and my folks met me halfway for Digital Performer 8 as my first DAW. But that's way out of date too, because that was 2016.
I don't even know. My Pinnacle's like 2 years old. I should probably re-up it, but
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like a hard software at this point. Like it can't stay supported. It can't stay up to date, which means then you get fucked. I mean, that's the whole point with like having to upgrade your phone, is that eventually, Apple's going to stop supporting security updates on it. So you're going to have to update if you want your information to be safe. If you don't want your phone to be royally fucked. If you want to actually keep using any of your apps.
I was gonna say, yeah, this is
Granted, I don't believe in upgrading my phone every year.
No, this is an iPhone 12.
Well, this is an iPhone 15, but I got it last year, and before that, I had an iPhone 10.
Yeah,
And
this is an iPhone 10.
I didn't even upgrade I didn't upgrade to my iPhone 10. My mom wanted a new phone, so she gave me her iPhone 10. So technically, the last time I upgraded a phone, it was to an iPhone 6.
I'm gonna say, yeah, my last upgrade that I did for myself was my watch. Was my Apple Watch, because I have 7.
I mean,
Yeah, watch 7,
my
and my original watch is a 1. So and
yeah, I
that
mean, I had to
years.
update my watch. I didn't have a choice when I got my 15 because my watch was no longer compatible with the software.
I was gonna say my watch I had to upgrade because the screen literally. I had that watch for so long that the screen actually was
Well,
the
and
glue
in
on the seam finally separated.
well, and in fairness, that watch I didn't even buy. Once again, my mom gave it to me because she wanted an upgrade. That's typically how things worked in my house. Is
Yeah.
my mom would be like, "I want an upgrade, so I'm going to let somebody else have the old tech so that I can have the new tech."
Yeah, I don't upgrade unless I absolutely have to. So once my 12 gets to the point where they're like, "Hey, it's out of date and you have to upgrade," I'll be like, "All right, fine, I'll upgrade."
Well, right, like, I mean, it helps though for me to have the iPhone 15 for work
Hmm.
because then I have the largest breakpoint that we support. So if I have to test on my phone, I can actually see whether or not we've fucked up the front end and made it look stretched out because I designed to the smallest breakpoint. Um, so like I have that. It's a good thing I have. I still have my 10. If I really wanted to, I could also test on that because it's a slightly smaller breakpoint. I don't because that's a pain in the ass, and I don't know if I have a charger for it anymore. But because they wouldn't take it for a trade in.
Makes sense.
um, but yeah, like
I've got
we've
technically
veered
2.
far off the path.
We did. I've got 2 iPhone 12s, by the way. But yeah, we did. Well, I mean, we're like going back and forth, and kept varying, and yeah, this is what this podcast is all about, people. If you don't realize it, we're gonna make jokes, and we're just also going to say, "Hey, this is what we're talking about," and then
Jokes on us. We're talking about phones.
yeah,
Um,
I mean, we got there. I don't know how we got there. I lost track of how we got there, but we got there
the
somehow.
idea
It
of
made sense, I
how
guess.
subscription services can provide support for
Yeah,
devices.
yeah. So we got there somehow. We got there. uh, no, but yeah. Like I said, I will always advocate like for subscriptions and be like I'm happy for them because the big thing is and the one thing we don't have anymore. We technically do. Because GameFly is still around. Weirdly enough, GameFly is still around and they will still mail you physical copies. But we don't have a Hollywood Video or a Blockbuster anymore, really. Unless you
This
go
is
to
true.
Oregon, where the last standing. I'm taking the child up there. I think we're gonna do a road trip one of these weeks. To the last standing Blockbuster, but yeah, we don't have that, and that was something like when I was growing up. Even you, Kayla, I know you
Oh, I remember
yours
Blockbuster.
was yeah. There
That's how I first
was
watched Star Wars was completely was through Blockbuster.
yeah, a Blockbuster. That's how like you wanted to play get one of those new games, but you didn't have the money. You went to like Blockbuster or Hollywood
Yeah.
Video, and you rented it,
Well, that
and then you
that part
played
I
it.
don't have much experience with.
I have a lot, and I
But,
mean I'm actually hold on, let me do this.
oh no.
Somewhere back here was a couch. And I'm seeing about where well, I was seeing right about where I beat TMNT Turtles in Time. on the
Yeah,
SNES for the first time.
well, that's the thing. It's like that was never going to be a thing in my house because my mom was very against video games unless they were from the Scholastic Book Fair. Um,
Yeah. Funnily
Carmen
enough,
Sandiego, Jumpstart, Learning Company,
I was gonna say,
all
funnily
that.
enough, my dad was the one that was against video games. My mom was the one that was for video games.
My dad didn't have an opinion either way. He's very interested now that I'm making them, but um, although it is funny when he goes and he's like, "Do you watch The Last of Us?" And I'm like, "I do." And he's like, "Do you watch it because of the zombies or because of Pedro Pascal?" And I'm like, "No, I mean I like Pedro Pascal. Don't get me wrong, but I watch it because I played the game." And he goes, "Oh," he's like, "Wait, does that mean you like zombies?" I'm like, "No, Dad, I'm not like my brother who watched The Walking Dead."
I was gonna say, I love zombies. I mean, Resident Evil's a great series, but I mean,
but no,
there's
it's
a reason why I really do that.
yeah, no, it was always it was like it was always Blockbuster or get Netflix mail for
Back when Netflix
movies
mailed out
and stuff.
everything, yep.
Yes, that's how I got to watch all of the original Chronicles of Narnia movies with the stuffed Aslan that they pretended could fly. And
Oh
the
yeah,
Christopher
the when were those made? Those were 90s?
the old Chronicle.
Yeah. Because there's two sets. There's that one, and then there was the newer ones that came out in like the mid 2000s.
Not the newer ones. Because those ones had CGI.
Yeah.
It wasn't Liam Neeson playing Aslan.
Aslan. These ones were, I want to say those ones were done in the 90s.
Maybe. I actually want to say they were done earlier than that.
They might have been 80s. Late 80s, early 90s. Late 80s, early 90s. Oh my. You're not I started it. I can't speak. I haven't been able to speak all night.
No.
Were they
Was it the
even
TV
early?
serials, maybe?
It might have been.
It might have been, which would have been 88 and 90.
Okay. Late 80s, early 90s.
Mm-hmm. It was the first 4 books, because I don't think it got further than that. It was so long ago. Yeah.
But we're getting off topic again. We're getting off.
Yes.
We're going. No, but yeah, like I said, I will always advocate for subscription bases, but I will always also condemn them, especially when it comes to a game company that seeing they're boasting about player count and definitely like hiding how many players. And I'm pretty sure like if like I said, the one post I found and posted, if that is actually because Microsoft's pretty like upfront about it, about their stuff. If that's true, that's where I'm giving Microsoft the respect. We know like EA and Ubisoft, if they're doing this, it's not a great thing. I mean, technically Microsoft did that and they didn't tell us how well Avowed really sold. But they're doing it with Dark Ages because they're like, no, we're gonna be a little upfront by this because we don't want more backlash.
I think if they're more transparent about the metrics that they're generating, for one, it'll help keep their shareholders from freaking out that the sky is falling.
Mm-hmm.
And for two, it lets players have a more informed choice.
Yeah, because now
Play.
yeah, because now players are looking at like if literally like half your player count is people who are buying it, more people are going to want to buy it.
Right. I mean, because then you start to then you're leaning into FOMO.
Mm-hmm. But
whereas just the player count's just manipulating FOMO. It's what we'd basically be calling in UX a dark pattern. But if you gave them the full context, then it's like, oh, 50-75% of your players are actually paying for this. Well, then I'm actually missing out on something.
Yeah. Where if it like less than 50% of your player base is buying the game, then people are, yeah, it can work in the negative because people are gonna be like, ooh, maybe I shouldn't, buy this. But now, maybe I'll pay for the subscription playthrough that first month. See if I want to continue paying for the subscription to continue playing it.
I mean, there's better ways of going about it where you're not trying to hide your metrics. Like the best way I can put it, coming from from someone who does present regularly to, or semi irregularly, or used to stakeholders when it comes to research, is you can dress up numbers real nice in a bunch of different ways, but it's about what's the best amount of context and what has the most meaning for your stakeholder. So, like, a player count on its own doesn't have a whole lot of meaning because in this day and age of subscriptions, we know that's not all people who bought this game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like the difference between showing a percentage or a decimal point. One has a lot more context because we don't have to do math.
It's true, because you know what people like to call math. I love math, by the way.
Well, yeah, I mean, but or like, I presented something to stakeholders and instead of going, "Oh, yes, it scored a 70%," I went, "It got a C minus." So we know, okay, that's not great.
Yeah, they're like, you use a grading scale. People are like, oh, okay, we probably need to work
Right,
on
but
it more.
it's all
Versus,
about. I mean, plus working in the given that we work with the schools and school districts, giving it a letter grade actually kind of works well. But it's just like it's giving the necessary context. Because everyone else might go, oh, 70%, that's not bad. We're only missing like 30 points. And it's like, no, this is a C minus. This is below average. This is a problem. There's two different contexts, especially when you can then go, oh, well, I myself, did an audit of this thing and I got a C, but the users think it's actually a C minus. It's like, we don't think very highly of it, but the people who use it and pay us for it think even less of it.
I was gonna say, you said schools, and then my brain went somewhere, and I'm like, I'm just not gonna make that joke, and now I want to make that joke. You know, I'm gonna, fuck, I'm just gonna say it. You work for schools, you help out, you do stuff for schools. I'm gonna tell you right now, Buffalo Schools isn't gonna tell you the truth. I'm not going to get into that. I'll talk to you about it after this, because
That
oh
went
boy, the Buffalo
over my head.
schools, Buffalo, New York, Buffalo schools,
Oh,
they're in some water. They're in some
well,
hot water. They're in
I'm
some
sure they are.
piping hot water.
But yeah, no, but it's like metrics in context can do a whole lot for you.
They can.
And at this point, it just behooves these companies to give us the context of, yes, this many players, but this many units sold, because it allows us to make the informed decision. But of course, they don't really want us to make the informed decision. They want us to really lean into the, into the FOMO.
And again, this is why I say bully game journalists, because they also pay off a lot of game journalists to give games high reviews.
Yeah.
That's why I say bully game journalists, because listen, I tangent time for game journalists. Y'all are supposed to help steer people to buy a game, correct? But you need to give an honest opinion about the game. And
Yeah.
for some of them, I'm not going to name them because they're pretty much dead in the water anyways. Don't add politics to it. Don't turn it into a political thing. If there are political ideologies in a game, Mass Effect being a great example of doing politics right in a game, don't try and turn that and go, well, they're talking about this in real life. No, don't. The politics that they're talking about in the game makes sense for the universe.
Well, it's like,
And does well in the universe that it's set in.
That's like every time I'd log into the Old Republic Online and someone would go, Anakin is space Jesus. And it's like, We don't talk about this. We don't. We don't talk about this because for so many reasons he's not.
But yeah, you don't do that. But again, you bully game journalists to get them to go, hey, this is what the game does right. This is what the game does wrong. This is an honest opinion. Overall, I think with all the good versus the bad, this is where I rate it.
Yeah.
You're giving us the good, the bad, and you're telling us it's a 7 out of 10. You know what people are going to do, even though that's like a naughty word to say to the normies. 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 is horrible. No, 7 out of 10 is actually really good. That's like, yeah, it's a C, but it's really good because it's not 50%. It's not a 5 out of 10.
Remember, by the American grading system is fucked like that.
That's true.
Because other countries look at a 70% and they go, "How is that a C? How is that no? Average is 50%." But no, like a 70 out of 100 is still pretty good.
It's still
Like,
pretty good.
yeah,
It's not horrible.
right. I mean, it's once you start hitting the low 60s and the 50s that you have to have concern. But again, it's about the context. 70 out of 100 ain't bad when it comes to games, when it comes to movies. I mean, think about it. 3 out of 5 stars. We like movies that are 3 out of 5 stars. That's 60%.
I was gonna say I there's 1 out of 5 stars movies that I enjoyed, but that's because they're bad for all the right reasons.
Well, yeah, but that's
they're so bad they're good.
when you're looking at like the film reviews, like when you used to look at them in the newspaper and look at the star reviews to see if you wanted to go. Typically, at least is 3 out of 5 star, at least in my house and some other houses, was a yeah, let's go try it. You know, it's similar to like
Let's see
the
how
Rotten
we like it.
Tomatoes rating.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Rotten Tomatoes rating. If it's high enough that, you know, like still again, if we're up to 70 or higher, yeah, let's give it a shot, especially if we don't see the green splat. But, you know, so
Yeah,
it's about the context.
it is. And again, a lot of people, they don't automatically look at the number and go, "Oh, yeah, okay," which isn't good. But I don't blame a lot of people because game journalists, again, they turn around and go, "The game's a 9 out of 10 because it appeals to my ideologies and fuck you."
And also
That's not a review. Like there haven't been any like that, but that's kind of like the context. You read these reviews, you're like,
yeah,
you're not even talking about the game. You're just talking about your weird fantasies. Okay, weird. I really don't care. Okay, what are people who are playing this game saying? Oh, they're actually enjoying this game, and they're saying it's like a solid 8. Okay, let me try this game out. It's weird that the player base and the YouTubers that aren't game journalists and like
yeah,
the basic player base are more informed and give more information about a game versus game journalists. Again, bully game journalists. I actually follow game journalists, and she got a job, and actually like I've listened to her reviews and everything, how she talks about it, and she's very fair. She doesn't let her political ideologies get in the way. She actually is fair to a game and talks about how she's liking it. She talked about Dragon Age, the newest Dragon Age game, and how she liked it and the things they did right and the things that she felt didn't hit. But she never put like a political or sociological or any ideology in there. She just talked about the game and how she liked it and things she liked, things she didn't, and why she rated it the way she did. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm still not gonna play it because EA pissed me off. But that's besides the point. There are some aspects of like how the game just felt stale. Like I've watched people play. I'm like, man, I'm trying to enjoy this. And that's how, again, one of those cases where that's the case where it wasn't the president. is someone high up sat there and said, it doesn't matter how we build the game. It's Dragon Age. They'll buy it based off of the name alone. So fuck whatever they think. Which again, not a good way of approaching anything. Trust me. That's not a good way of approaching stuff. Oh, they'll buy it just based off of name. We're gamers. We're kind of assholes like that.
Sometimes.
Yeah. We're gamers. You can't tell us what to do. We're going to do other things. You can't go this way.
The fuck
I can't.
Yeah, no.
Watch me.
That's the fascinating thing of like UX designing games is you have to throw any and all preconceived notions of what the player is going to do out the fucking window. And if you don't, you will end up with a nasty surprise, which is how we actually ended up with a game like Fortnite.
Sure. Again, I've played enough games that it's like sometimes you sit there and go, I wonder if I could do this. I wonder if I could break the game this way. And then you break the game this way and you're like, oh, that's awesome. I'm going to see what else I can do.
There's definite times in shadows where I'm just like, fuck this. I'm not following the road. We're going to see just how far up the mountain I can get. Do I get very far? No. But I do brute force my way across the terrain without having to be on the road the whole time.
I have literally, Skyrim is a great example. I've literally climbed mountains that you're not supposed to climb just because I'm like, I'm going to get there. The shortest way is through this mountain. Fuck it, I'm climbing.
Well, and then that's where, like, when you have open world games with more clever level design, like Survivor and Fallen Order, where they make it that you can try, but unless you got the right tool, you're probably not going to succeed.
True. Again, you can have a successful game, have a great player count, and have great units sold. You might not have 100% units sold per player count.
Yeah.
But you can still have an amazing game. And it can still be like 70-80% of the people playing this bought the game. You get things like, again, going back to like this, Stellar Blade, which by the way, June 11th comes out on PC. So if you have not played it and you're waiting for the PC release, I highly recommend it. Not because it's got a hot Asian chick as the main lead, but the story is actually good.
Gosh, Chase, you should almost be paid.
I wish. Shift up, please. I was going to say, another thing, because I'm pretty sure everyone will be seeing this. Hopefully, eventually, maybe, hey, Odell. Hit me up. But yeah, like overall, you can have great games, talk about player count and player units sold, and get more people interested in. Even if your unit sold is lower, you can still generate a lot of good press and push something towards it. The hard part is when your unit sold is so vastly small, unless you're Microsoft in this aspect, pushing for people to be on Game Pass to play Dark Age. I respect that. They want people playing Dark Age on Game Pass. Cool. I respect that. But, when you need to make sure your shareholders are like not panicking that their money's going to dry up with your company, you might want to, make sure you're being a little like forefront about everything. Because let's face it, and Ubisoft is the big perpetrator on this episode. I'm sure without a doubt there's going to be something we'll be talking at one point in time, and quote me on this. EA is going to do something and it's going to piss off people. It's not that hard. EA does it every other day.
Who's going to Hey, EA has already done that.
EA does it easily.
It's
EA did
why
that
they no
with.
longer have an exclusive contract for Star Wars.
Yeah, but we'll see how this goes because Yeah, well, we know how Outlaws did. It did not do well. Also, I'm going to state this. This isn't part of like what we're talking about or anything like that. Stop making fucking exclusive content for higher editions. Specifically, being like, if you get this edition, you get this special Jabba the Hutt mission that we're not going to release
Bullshit.
later.
It's bullshit.
Don't do that. That's bad. That's horrible. That's bad. Get the spray bottle out and just bad. No, because you're forcing people to do either A, pay for your subscription, or B, buy that edition. If you're going to do that, you sit there and go, hey, you can get this exclusive this special mission with this. But if you don't and you want to play this, you can do the predatory DLC thing, but don't make it like $15 for a mission that's I don't even know how long that mission is because I don't know anyone that's done it. But if it's like a 15-minute mission in an open world game, don't make it $15, make it $5.
Yeah.
And then, also listen to your player base too, companies, because I guarantee you, if you let the company or you let Respawn go back and fixed Anthem, and you let them do that, and they did the re-release.
Respawn?
Anthem was Respawn.
Well, maybe if they could fix that, and also like I would totally play Anthem again if
I loved Anthem.
I know.
It was so good.
You and Charlie all got to play it. I didn't.
We're not going to get Respawn went and said, hey, we want to do this. We're going to do this. Blah, blah, and EA's like, nah, let's not. It was a flop. And like, they want it.
No. Because, like, remember,
nah.
Charlie, that's how I got the PlayStation, is Charlie bought me my PS4.
Mm-hmm.
She bought me a copy of Anthem. But then every time I tried to go into a mission with you guys, it would crash. Because I think our internet couldn't handle it or something.
Yeah, with, like, everyone online. But, yeah. Which sucks, because it was listen, it was super repetitive. It suffered from the Destiny stuff, but I loved it just because.
Yeah, I don't even know if I have the physical copy anymore. I think Charlie actually took it. Or it's in the box of my stuff that's somewhere at your place that's vanished.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know where. It's somewhere.
It's somewhere, as it has been for the last.
I remember seeing it and going, okay, this needs to go here. And I remember moving it to the other place. I'm like, okay, it's right here. And then I don't remember where it went. I'm like, I know I had it. It had to have been moved in here because it was in a specific spot, and I know I moved that.
Well, I think we've I don't know.
I think we did really well. And we were about that point on the recording and everything. Our lives longer, but that's fine. And there's some times before after the recording start. But I think that's actually a good little bit for this time. We're going to try and keep these close to 2 hours. We'll see how we do. We're nerds. We like to talk, not because we have anything good to say. 2 hours does seem good.
Hours after D&D, talking can just happen forever.
There was many days after D&D that we sit there. And it's like D&D ended at midnight, and it's like 3 a.m. and we're all still sitting there talking, just BSing. But if it's time to nerd, go ahead and nerd. Yes, exactly. But those.
Yes. Yes, they are. You're actually the first person to figure that one out.
He knew. I don't.
except probably unlike Elphaba's minor prescription.
But, all right. I think that's a good place to call it. We'll worry about that. I'm still trying to figure that thing out. Don't worry. We'll get to that eventually. But anyways, we're going to call it right there. Thank you everyone for joining the UnNerded Podcast. Again, I was joined today by Kayla, Lady Stormwind, and of course myself, Kisragi. We appreciate you guys. Thanks everyone for swinging by on this one. And we will see you in the next one. Of course, till then, take care, everyone.